midnight screams.
For over 50 years, I have worked investigating the supernatural. My whole family worked in this field. However, due to a lack of concrete evidence, many people disbelieved them. Even so, they taught me everything they knew, and it has been passed down through generations, but none of my descendants have shown any interest, and that worries me. But something changed during my childhood. I was born in 1965, and I witnessed the growth and evolution of photos and videos. On camera, it was possible to obtain evidence, but only from those in poor condition, imperfect cameras that show imperfections in reality. People, often disbelieving but desperate, brought me photos to analyze. Those with something supernatural were to be burned. I have countless stories and have learned a great deal about all kinds of apparition, various types of demons, obsessive spirits, shadows, false gods, events that can't happen, doppelgangers, ghosts, and they all saw it and came to me. I edited the photos to make whatever was there more visible. When it was a demon, the photo was always accompanied by something. The person would report things breaking without explanation, insects appearing in their house, and blood dripping from the keyholes in the doors. In these cases, it even happened that sometimes people close to those who sought my help made pacts and promised the soul of the person who spoke to me. In these cases, the person would go through several near-death experiences. The photo was proof. It was a disfigured, somewhat animalistic dark red face that appeared when edited. But of course, this is just the most common demon. There are various types of demons, including succubus, incubus, oni, yokai, and such. Honestly, it's been a while since I told these stories, so I wanted to tell several. If you're interested in any of them, don't hesitate to ask. Obsessive spirits also had effects on the person. They felt followed and always reported that they could feel winds even with the house closed, touches with no one around, and it was pure paranoia. When she showed me the photo, it was exactly as predicted. A dark creature with intense eyes stared at its victim, almost waiting to do something, learning, watching. The shadows were always the ones that intrigued me the most, and even scared me, because of the unknown. It was impossible to predict what they were or what they wanted. Nothing changed in the person's life, and sometimes the photo was from a long time ago, precisely because nothing changed. They were just humanoid figures, either completely white or black. These are popular. You yourselves have probably seen something like saints' faces on nonsensical things, and many even find it cool. But beware, the creature behind it wants to deceive you, to mislead you away from your faith to faith it instead. You won't even notice when you start praying for it. When old photos show extra limbs on bodies, hands, arms, or something completely impossible like something floating, that's always the most obvious thing to spot. The people with it tends to believe more, in my words. To explain doppelgangers, I'll tell a story, but without revealing names, of course. Anyway, a mother had taken a picture of her young adult daughter, but in the photo, the daughter's kitten was seen lying on her feet. But at that moment, the father was at the vet with the cat. After the photo was burned, the family continued with their lives as normal. The cat is having a happy life now, don't worry. A story also helps to tell about the ghosts. A father had arrived with a family photo where only he, his wife, and his 7-year-old son should have been pictured. But next to his son, there was another boy, looked like 7 years old. His skull was bleeding. He was crying blood. His skin was bluish. That's when his father told me the story. The older son had pushed his brother into a lake. He had been bullying him for a while, but this time the boy died, drowned. It was necessary to burn the photo so the boy could die in peace. Having explained the basic concepts, I should add that there are situations where a single creature can be 2 to 4 of those mentioned before. But there was one time that I could never have predicted. A tall man, dressed in a suit and elegant clothes, extremely pale and old. His eyes were not very visible because of his hat, but they were bright and seemed to pierce me. He didn't say anything. He just handed me a completely black photo. I didn't know what to expect, but I decided to look for something anyway. That's what I did. I helped people spiritually. After searching for a long time, I felt something holding me back, but there was nothing there. I thought I was dealing with an obsessive spirit myself, but it was much worse. My vision began to darken. Black spots appeared, and what remained was blurry. I felt my skin begin to burn. It hurt as if all my blood was being drained from me. I almost fell out of my chair, and I fainted, but just before I managed to focus on the photo, which was no longer dark, that's when I understood. It was a picture of hell itself, and when I woke up, everything was normal. The picture wasn't on my computer. It was like I'd almost gone to hell for a second. The man wasn't there. Written in blood on the floor were, "You can't do anything. Give up or see my home again." I felt nauseous, but it was blood, and there was a nail in my throat that came out, hurting me a lot. My room smelled horribly of carrion. I could barely stand. I ran out and went straight to church, confessed, and did everything I could to stop it. I burned all the stuff in my house and I restarted my life, but even today I feel watched, trapped while I sleep, and I frequently experience sleep paralysis. I want to pass my profession on to someone to protect others, but honestly, nobody deserves this. It started a week ago when I got a notification on Instagram about a new follower. I get random requests all the time, so it didn't stand out at first. The username was Optimus Prime 33. Not exactly subtle, not exactly human. No profile picture, no posts, no bio, following exactly one person, me. I didn't follow back, obviously. I don't follow empty accounts unless I know the person, and I didn't know this one. Actually, I didn't know anything about this one. 0 mutuals, 0 footprint, 0 reason to exist. I remember looking at the profile for a total of 3 seconds and thinking, bot. Closed the app and moved on. End of story. Or so I thought. The next morning I woke up, brushed my teeth, made the same coffee I drink every day, and sat on my sofa replying to boring work messages. My phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Optimus Prime 33 mentioned you in a post. I rolled my eyes, thinking it was probably some spam reel tagging random people. Opened it anyway. It wasn't a reel. It was a photo, a picture of my building. My building, not a stock photo, not something anyone could Google. My actual building, taken from the street. The angle was unmistakable. My floor, my balcony railing, the light from my bedroom window, everything. Caption, "You're still here." I remember sitting there staring at my phone thinking, who the fuck is this? I clicked the profile again. Still private. Still no posts except this one. Still following, just me. Still no followers. It felt like a blank mask, staring back. I tried blocking him. Instagram behaved like it worked. User blocked. But when I refreshed the page, the account was still there. Nothing changed. I tried again. Same thing. The account clung to me like glue. I shrugged it off and went to work, because honestly, I wasn't about to lose my day over some idiot with a Transformers username. Later that afternoon, another notification, another tag. This time, it was a picture of me, walking to the lift, taken from the lobby. The lobby was empty when I left my apartment. I'm not imagining that. I didn't see anyone standing near the stairs or pretending to scroll by the wall. It was dead quiet, but the photo was taken from the corner, the exact opposite corner from where I was walking. The caption said, "You don't notice anything." That pissed me off more than it scared me. I commented under the post, "Who are you?" He replied instantly. Not a second of delay. I felt the hair on my arms rise. I don't know why that stupid smiley hit so hard, but it did. Something about the way he responded so fast, like he was waiting for me to ask. I clicked unfollow out of pure irritation. All his posts vanished instantly, like his profile wiped itself clean the moment I cut the link. When I followed again to check, he accepted immediately. No delay. Almost like he'd been staring at his screen, waiting for me to click the button. 2 days later, I woke up early for work, earlier than usual, because I had a meeting I didn't want to be late for, and I found another tag. A screenshot. My old Facebook profile. Like ancient old. Photos from college. Cringe memes I'd forgotten I posted. People I don't even speak to anymore. He scraped something from an era of my life I barely remember and posted it like some kind of digital trophy. Caption: "Always liked this one." Liked what? The picture? Me? The life I had back then? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't want to think about it. I started to get uneasy. Not terrified yet, just annoyed and unsettled. Like when you know a mosquito is in your room but you can't find it. Yesterday, it escalated. I left work, walked toward my bike, parked near the gate like always, and my phone buzzed. Another tag. A picture of my bike. Same angle I see it from when I walk up to it. Taken moments before I got there, I scanned the area thinking maybe some idiot from the office was messing with me. But nobody was standing around. Nobody was hiding behind cars or pillars. It was just empty. Caption: "You really don't know me." Yeah, I fucking don't. And that was the problem. Last night I sat on my couch for 2 straight hours, scrolling through my memories trying to place him. School? No. College? No. Office? Definitely not. A friend of a friend? Nothing. A random neighbor? No. Someone I pissed off years ago? No idea. There was nothing. No connection. No shared history. No reason this guy should know anything about me. This morning things got real. About 40 minutes ago, he posted a picture of my doorbell, my nameplate, up close, clear as daylight. He had stood right there. Caption: "Back home soon?" That was it for me. I grabbed my keys, grabbed my phone, didn't even check if the door was locked, just walked straight out. Didn't call anyone, didn't tell anyone, just walked fast and didn't look back. I must have reached the police station in 5 minutes flat, probably broke a walking speed record. And now I'm sitting in this shitty plastic chair with people screaming down the hall and constables walking past without making eye contact. The fan above me is rattling like it's about to fall. My palms are sweating, and I'm typing all of this out because I haven't figured out how to explain this without sounding insane. "Hi, sir. Some guy with a Transformers username is tagging me in pictures of my balcony. Yeah, great. Sounds normal. I opened Instagram to check if he posted anything new. Nothing. The same set of posts, arranged neatly like a timeline of creeping dread. I tapped each one again. My balcony, me near the lift, my old Facebook profile, my bike, my doorbell. I zoomed into each picture, trying to find clues, reflections, shadows, footprints, corners, anything. There was nothing. Whoever took these photos was careful, too careful. I checked the timestamps. They lined up with my routine, almost perfectly. Morning, afternoon, post-work, late evening. The fucker knew my schedule. I even checked the metadata on the photos. Instagram strips most of it, but I checked anyway. Nothing. I tried Googling his username. Nothing. No Reddit, no Twitter, no stray gaming IDs. Nothing in any breach database. No traces. Like the account exists only on Instagram, only connected to me. I even tried messaging him. Tell me who you are. No reply. I was halfway through typing a second message when I realized I was being stupid and stopped before giving him more attention. And now I'm here, stuck in a police station, typing this all down while constables keep walking past me like I'm a stain on the floor. I wish I could say I'm calm. I'm not. I'm trying so hard to pretend I'm not affected, but my chest feels tight, and I keep checking the station doorway expecting him to walk in. I keep refreshing Instagram every few seconds, and each time I brace myself for another notification. I swear I'm shaking writing this. All of this feels unreal and too real at the same time. A stranger following me everywhere, taking photos, posting them seconds later, reacting instantly when I unfollow or comment. It's too much. I'm trying to appear normal in the police station, but I keep glancing at the entrance. Every time the door moves, my heartbeat jumps. Every time someone coughs behind me, I flinch. Someone has been watching me for a week, closely enough to know when I leave my room, when I enter my lift, when I park my bike, when I unlock my door, when I panic. I'm trying to steady myself, but my fingers won't stop tapping the screen. My phone buzzed as I was typing this out. Another tag, another post. My hands are cold. I opened Instagram without thinking. This time it was a picture of me, sitting on this same plastic chair, typing on my phone. My shoulders hunched the exact way they are right now, my thumb mid-swipe, my leg bent at the same angle. Everything identical. It was taken from beside me, right next to my shoulder, like someone stood inches away while I typed, and I didn't notice anybody standing there. The caption read, "This won't help." I've always been a sucker for a cliché. It was a dark and stormy night. It sounds cheesy in a ghost story, but when you are actually sitting in it, huddled in an old Victorian house while the wind screams like a banshee against the siding, the cliché stops feeling safe. It starts to feel heavy. I was alone in the house, or so I thought. I had made a ritual of it. Every time a gale rolled in off the coast, I'd turn off the lights, brew a pot of Earl Grey, and sit in the wingback armchair facing the sliding glass door. I loved watching the violence of nature from the safety of my living room. The glass was double-paned, a thick, invisible barrier between me and the chaos. Tonight, the storm was different. It wasn't just rain, it was a deluge, driven by a wind that shook the floorboards beneath my feet. Flash! The backyard lit up in a burst of strobe light white. The massive oak tree in the center of the lawn stood rigid, its gnarled branches thrashing like drowning arms against the gray sky. I started my count, sipping my tea. 1 Mississippi. 2 Miss. Boom! The thunder rattled the ceramic mug against my teeth. Close. Less than 2 miles. I set the tea down. The silence between the crashes was heavy, filled only by the wet drumming of the rain. Flash! The yard illuminated again. I saw the oak tree. I saw the lawn chair the wind had overturned. And I saw a shape standing by the back fence. I blinked, leaning forward in the dark. It was tall, motionless, and draped in something heavy and wet that clung to a frame that looked too thin to be human. Darkness slammed back down before I could focus. The after-image burned in my retinas, a purple splotch floating in the black. Just a bush, I whispered. My voice sounded thin, swallowed by the house. Just the shadows playing tricks. I waited for the next bolt, my muscles tensing. Flash! The air left my lungs. The shape wasn't by the fence anymore. It was standing in the dead center of the lawn. It had moved 30 feet in 10 seconds. In the stark white light, I saw it clearly. It had no face. Just a smooth, pale surface where features should be slick with rain. And it wasn't just standing there. It was pointing. A long, gray finger extended toward the sliding glass door, toward me. 1 miss. Crack boom! Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in my chest. I scrambled up from the chair, abandoning my tea. I rushed to the door, my hands shaking as I checked the latch. Locked. The deadbolt was engaged. I backed away, grabbing the heavy brass poker from the fireplace. The metal was cold in my sweating palm. Go away, I hissed at the dark glass. I'm armed. I waited, my breath hitching in my throat. I prayed for the storm to pass. I prayed for the darkness to hold, because as long as it was dark, I didn't have to see where it was now. Flash! The yard was empty. The figure was gone. The oak tree stood alone. The lawn was vacant. Relief washed over me, dizzying and nauseous. I let out a jagged exhale, my grip on the poker loosening. I slumped slightly. It had been a trick of the light, a shadow puppet made by the storm. I laughed, a dry, nervous sound. Then, the lightning flashed one last time. The yard was still empty, but in the reflection of the glass door, illuminated by the stuttering white light, I saw the living room behind me. I saw the back of my armchair. I saw the reading lamp, and I saw the pale, faceless figure standing directly behind my left shoulder. My wife is convinced that I've been replaced. Please help me. I don't know what to do. Yes, it probably sounds insane. I should start with the backstory. But God, how hard it is to remember the simple, happy times before everything that happened. I met my wife, Catherine, when she was 24 and I was 28. We lived in a small town in Kentucky. You'd have trouble finding it, even with a map, and the population was tiny. Everyone knew each other. I'd worked as an electrician all my life, first at a factory, then I started my own small business, repairs, wiring, private jobs. My love life had never really worked out until I met her. She worked as an elementary school teacher, smiled at every child, was kind and polite to everyone. My Catherine was the only ray of light in the darkness around me. I loved her for her simplicity. She could find joy in the most ordinary things. Morning coffee, the smell of wet grass, a cheap movie on the couch. We didn't have much money, but we had peace, a home, a dog, and that feeling that everything was right, that everything would be fine. I spent evenings fixing things while she wrote lesson plans or knitted. Sometimes we'd sit in silence, listening to crickets, or stay up all night talking about everything and nothing, thinking about children and what we'd name them. Back then, it felt like life had finally found its meaning. The problems began maybe 2 months ago. At first, small things. She started having trouble sleeping, then began looking at me strangely, as if something in my face disturbed her. I asked if everything was okay, and she laughed. Sorry, just tired. The kids at school are driving me crazy. Gradually, though, I can't even say exactly when it got worse. She slept less. Not because she had insomnia, but because she was afraid to fall asleep. I asked her what was wrong, but she said she was fine. Still, when we lay together, she'd suddenly get up and go into another room, returning only at dawn. She started having nightmares, but never told me what they were. One day I lost my temper. You have to understand, I was just worried about my wife. From the lack of sleep, she started to look worse, dark circles under her eyes, red eyes, pale skin. She lost weight, and every time I tried to help, she pushed me away. So I sat her down across from me and directly asked what she was dreaming about. She was silent for a long time, trembling and glancing at me furtively, as if she was afraid. And then, when tears began to roll down her cheeks, she whispered, "There's a man in my dreams." God, I'm scared, Tom. I went to hug her, and when I reached for her, she flinched, as if I'd frightened her. After that, things seemed to get better, or so I thought. How wrong I was. She used to ask how my day went, but now she just stared out the window. With each passing day, she spoke to me less and less, her words short and dry, and then she'd go to the bathroom or kitchen for some errands, closing the door behind her. And it wasn't just the silence, her eyes had changed. If before they were green, emerald-like, full of life and love, now her gaze made my spine go cold. There wasn't anger or hatred there, no, it was something closer to mistrust, wariness, as if she was seeing me for the first time. Over the next week, I began to feel anxious, a strange burning under my skin, as if something was wrong, but I couldn't tell where the crack was until I realized she was studying me. When I drank coffee, I could feel her eyes on me. I'd look up and she'd immediately turn away, pretending to slice fruit, but her fingers trembled and the knife froze halfway to the board. I'd step outside for a smoke, and when I turned around, I'd see her peeking through the curtain, then she'd instantly close it. When I showered, I'd catch her watching me, studying my body, then she'd run away. She started doing it even while I slept. She almost stopped talking to me, instead writing something in a notebook and hiding it as soon as I entered the room. Photos began to disappear from their frames. She'd talk on the phone with someone, but hang up the moment I came in. I made an appointment with a psychologist for us, but she refused, said she was afraid to be near me. It all happened so suddenly. It seemed just yesterday we were stargazing in each other's arms, and now this. The strangeness grew every day. Sometimes she asked me to sleep on the couch. I agreed, hoping it would calm her, but it was useless. Her paranoia only worsened. It got to the point where, when I tried to hug her, she screamed, "Don't come near me," and flinched as if I'd hit her. After one of those nights, I decided I had to find out what was really going on, even if it meant taking her to a doctor afterward. I pretended to be asleep when she stood in the hallway. Then she slowly approached soft, careful steps. She stopped at the foot of the bed, and for several seconds there was a dead silence, broken only by her uneven breathing. I could feel her watching. Not just watching, comparing. That's when I became truly terrified, a cold dread twisting inside me as my wife became something I couldn't recognize. Then the bed shifted slightly. She sat down on the edge. The air grew heavy. I could feel her stare physically, like pressure on my skin. Then her cold fingers gently touched my wrist, held it for a few seconds, then quickly let go, as if burned, and whispered, "Pulse faster than Tom's." My heart clenched so hard I nearly twitched. She leaned closer. I could hear her breathing against my face, short, shaky. She smelled of lavender and something sour that made goosebumps crawl down my back. Her lips barely moved. I remember clearly, Tom had a small scar right here. She touched my cheek. "But you don't." I clenched my teeth to keep from gasping. Those few seconds of silence lasted an eternity. What scar? I never had a scar on my cheek. I'd know if I did. I wanted to sink into the ground and scream all at once, but I kept lying still until I heard a choked sob and her fading footsteps. The door slammed. I opened my eyes, my heart pounding furiously. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, too afraid to close my eyes. In the morning, I went to work early, dreading the hours until my shift ended. That evening, over dinner, I said, "Kate, we need to talk. What's going on?" She gripped her fork so tightly her knuckles turned white, then looked me dead in the eye. "Tom, you've been acting strange." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Sometimes you look different. Sometimes your voice sounds wrong. You even smell different." I didn't know what to say. My head was chaos, and somehow I just laughed. "Kate, maybe you're just imagining things." "I don't know, Tom." My eyes fell on the knife rack. There was a clean strip of dust where the largest kitchen knife should have been the one we used for everything. Bread, meat, anything. I distinctly remembered it being there before that night. My heart slammed into my throat with a primal panic. I looked at Kate, and she was staring right at me. I wanted to speak, but couldn't. It hit me then my wife might be planning to kill me. The next morning she left for work, and I, like a caged animal, started searching the house. I hadn't slept in nearly 48 hours. I know I should have just left, or taken her to a hospital. But she's my wife. I love her. She has to see that I am me. I tore through the apartment, frantic, desperate to find something, anything that would help me understand what was happening to her. And I did. After about an hour, in the back of the closet behind a pile of sweaters, I found her wooden box. Old, slightly, cracked. The lid was ajar, and when I opened it, a thick notebook fell into my hands. It smelled of coffee and sweat. Her initials on the cover, written in her neat cursive. My heart froze as I realized it was the diary she'd been hiding from me. The paper bent under my fingers, her handwriting familiar, but this time jagged, shaky, the page stained with what looked like tears. He's sleeping. I stand by the bed and watch. He looks like Tom, but he's not. Tom had a scar on his left hand from that accident by the river. This one's skin is smooth. He smiles, but the smile doesn't reach his eyes. Something replaced him. I keep counting days, marking steps. If the real Tom, my husband, is alive, where is he? A wave of nausea rose in my throat. With each page, her handwriting grew more erratic. I tested his speech. He says, "I love you," in the same tone, but without warmth, not like before. Tom smelled of vanilla, but this one smells of dust and cheap cologne. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My knees trembled. The air around me tightened like a noose. I flipped to the last page. I can't let this thing stay in our house. It wears his smile, his name. I tried talking to it, begging, but it just smiled and said all the right words. It didn't defend itself. Maybe because it isn't afraid? Its right hand twitches when it lies. I could have killed IT today, but for some reason I couldn't. I know I have to. For Tom, I won't let some monster wear his skin. My hands were slick with sweat. My whole body was sweating, even though the room was cold. I placed the diary on the bed and sat down, trying to process everything I just read. An accident? God, she was exaggerating. All that came out of it was a concussion and some bruised ribs. I stayed in the hospital for about a week. Yeah, 7 days. Then my phone rang, making me jump. It was Sheriff Martin, a kind old man I'd known for years. "Tom, everything all right over there?" Catherine called. "Said someone's living in your house, pretending to be her husband." I froze. "What did you say?" "Says you're not you. I've known her for a year, always seemed stable. Domestic quarrel, huh?" "No, just stress. She's tired." Evening came slowly. I sat on the couch, elbows on my knees, looking at an old photograph, the one that used to sit on our mantel before all this. Catherine and I, by the lake, smiling, her arms around me, the sun so bright that day we had to squint. I stared at us, at the little details, her blonde hair catching the light, her hand around mine, the green shimmer in our eyes. It felt like a lifetime ago. When the door creaked open, I nearly jumped. My wife's, if I can still call her that, steps were slow and tired, her bag thudding softly to the floor. She looked exhausted, her eyes red, her hair a mess. I stood, holding the diary. "Kate, we need to talk." She looked at me warily, like a trapped animal sensing a snare. "What's that in your hand?" Her voice was even, but something trembled in it. I found this. I need to understand what's happening," I said, showing her the diary. Catherine froze. For a moment, I thought she'd break down crying, but instead, she slowly stepped closer, looking straight into my face, her cold breath brushing against my skin. "So what did you figure out, Tom? That I'm crazy? You think I've lost my mind, don't you?" "No. You wrote that I've been replaced, that I don't have a scar." She turned away, her lips pressed tight. Tom had one. We even joked it made him look tougher. "Listen, sweetheart." I took a step closer, a strange knot tightening in my gut. "I'm the same man. I remember everything. How we met, the candles at our wedding, how you laugh when we watch comedies, what you said about that stupid show when we finished it. I remember everything, Catherine. It's me." She stared at me, unblinking, her shoulders trembling as if she were freezing. I looked into her eyes, and there was something there, pain and horror mixed together, as if I stood before her as someone both familiar and wrong. "You say it like you've rehearsed it," she whispered. "Because it's true." I stepped closer, my voice cracking into a shout. "What do I have to do for you to believe me?" "What?" Catherine said nothing, just breathed heavily, like she was fighting herself, staring into my eyes. Then she suddenly backed away, step by step, toward her bag. I didn't realize what was happening at first. She bent down, as if for a handkerchief, and in the next moment, I saw the glint of metal, a knife, the missing one. "Kate," I breathed, disbelieving. "Catherine, put it down. Stop. Stop pretending, you monster." I managed half a step toward her. She raised her hand. At first, I thought she was only threatening me. Panic tightened my fists. I wanted to yell, to grab her shoulders, to make her listen, but then a strike. Burning pain slashed through my chest. Everything went white. The last thing I saw was her face, so familiar, twisted by terror and despair at once. She stood over me, her hand trembling, her lips whispering something like, "Tom, where are you, my love?" And then everything went dark. I woke up in a hospital. At first nothing but fog, then the smell of antiseptic, the faint beep of a monitor, unfamiliar voices. I tried to move. My head pain shot through my body. The doctor explained I'd lost a lot of blood but somehow survived. The knife missed my heart by an inch. Catherine had run away. I listened, not believing any of it was real. A couple of days later, Martin came by. I told him everything about the knife, the diary, her thinking I wasn't me. He listened, frowning, taking notes. When he finished and was about to leave, he turned back. "Didn't expect this from Catherine. Don't worry, we'll find her. When you're discharged, come by my place. I got some Cuban cigars from a friend. We'll relax a bit." Without thinking, I said, "I don't smoke." He frowned, about to say something, but then just nodded and left, closing the door behind him. For several minutes I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to come to terms with everything that had happened. Then I noticed a small mirror in the corner of the room. I looked at my reflection and froze. My face was pale, my lips dry. But that wasn't what caught my attention. Interesting. Can eyes change color from green to blue? Our flight attendants had us close the blinds. They insist it's mandatory. They're panicked and talking about some upcoming turbulence. I began my flight around 9 hours ago. I left New York for Singapore, which would have me fly for around 19 hours, making sure to pack sleeping pills and chewing gum for my horrifying ear and jaw pain. My sinuses always act up when the pressure changes, and I dreaded this flight, especially because I had to do it alone for some conference. I listened absently to the instructions the flight crew gave us, gestures to oxygen masks, emergency exits, first aid, and so on. They mentioned the Wi-Fi, the food menu, etc. The closest attendant was a girl with a tight bun and bubblegum pink lipstick. She had an overly sober expression plastered on, and even though her lips were stretched into a smile, her eyes weren't. After the usual part, some other specifications followed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please keep in mind that we will be flying very high and the pressure change might affect you. In case you are feeling extremely sick and experience very serious headaches, do not hesitate to notify the crew. We might experience turbulence when we reach a certain point, and should a critical moment occur, please do listen to the instructions of the crew and the captain and follow them precisely." I didn't really care about whatever they had to say. I doubted the crew would help my piercing sinus pain. The moment we took off, I swallowed the sleeping pills and dozed off. I had some music on and my sleeping mask on, so I got completely cut off the rest of the plane. I remember some dreams that seemed to clog my head the way fever dreams do, of shaped twisting and convulsing, bigger than I wanted them to be, stretching and taking up space, straining my mind. I remember the feeling of being held down by shapes as heavy as lead, the feeling of hotness and itchiness. This bleak and irritating obscurity was soon completely ravaged by a sharp, explosive pain reverberating directly through my jaw. The pain pierced through my sleeping pill magic and startled me awake, wide-eyed and confused at the darkness that was actually my sleeping mask, sweating and nauseous. I finally yanked it off, but I couldn't focus my eyes on anything, as pain just kept exploding like fireworks into my jaw, between my eyes, and right between my throat and my ear canal. It was like nothing I'd ever felt before. I couldn't even cry or talk. I was just too perplexed, too shaken. I endured the next hours, or minutes, praying for it to just end. Hammers were hitting my eye sockets and my temples, and screwdrivers were being jammed into my gums and nostrils. I felt my stomach rise up to my throat, and suddenly a terrible tightness and convulsions took over my neck and chest. My agony ended so abruptly that I could still feel the marks the pain has left, like the moment when you look directly into the sun and then luminous spots plague your vision for a few minutes. I stood there in shock, processing and cursing my stupid sensitivity. Looking over the seats at other passengers, I could spot a few pale and completely shaken faces that told me they had experienced the same pain. I was exhausted, and I just wanted to get out of this steel cage. The seat in front of me was too close to my face, the top too low, almost hitting my head, and the plane window too close. My legs felt stiff and my back hurt. I checked my watch. 7 hours in. For fuck's sake. That's it. I'm going to the restroom. I tapped the 2 guys sitting next to me and asked them to stand up. They both groaned and moved away. I stumbled to the restroom, overcome by dizziness. I'm going to puke in the toilet. Fine. I'm defeated. I opened the door to the plane restroom, but once I was inside, I couldn't figure out how to lock it. As I said, I was puking, so I didn't mind anyone walking over me. I poured out my stomach and then spent another 15 minutes just splashing water over my face. Anyway, I'm mentioning this detail because I assume the flight attendants didn't know the restroom was occupied, since it looked unlocked and no one had come out in a while. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let me hear the following conversation. Should we do it now? I'm not sure. I wasn't even supposed to take this fucking flight. Calm down. If they panic, it'll only be worse. We need to just be very, very careful, Joe. Yeah, sure. And if we crash? We won't crash. We did this many times and nothing happened. Calm down. I just think we should. I unfortunately gagged really loud, and it was truly unexpected, and they heard me and stopped. I proceeded to puke some green juice. I flushed, which sounded like another engine of the plane was right there, in the toilet. Fuck my life. I opened the door and gave them an awkward smile as I hopped to my seat. The 2 attendants looked at me as if I were at a family function and had walked into them talking shit about me. I went back to my seat and wanted to die. I was quickly reminded of my awfully claustrophobia-inducing seat. I just wanted to go back to sleep, so I swallowed a pill and slapped the mask over my face. Ladies and gentlemen, please close off your window shades immediately. This is mandatory and for your safety and the safety of other passengers. I couldn't drift off, however, because I felt a hand over me. Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Please close your blind. The flight attendant chick is going crazy over this, mumbled the boy next to me, while pulling the shade down. All of the flight attendants were watching over their own seat section. The girl watching over us was biting her lip nervously and gripping the seat with her tense fingers, her knuckles almost white. She noticed I was staring at her and gave me a grimaced smile. In the dim lights of the plane, the tension was almost palpable. No one was talking. All blinds were closed. All was silent. The little tablet on my chair showed we were flying over the North Atlantic, entering the polar zone. Open ocean. No land. What exactly weren't we supposed to see? Some military ship? Some military base? I suddenly felt pressure behind my eyes. The feeling of nausea returned. I felt as if I was hanging upside down. I tried to swallow. I popped some gum into my mouth. Another 11 hours to go. Fuck me. The plane was awfully silent, and if that didn't scare me, the look of the flight attendants sure did. Their eyes were constantly darting to each shade, and they were breathing heavily. They wouldn't act like that for some fuck-ass military base. They looked the way animals do when they're desperate, when they're in danger. Funny, we like to think that we are not animals. Yet, we get angry and nervous when someone stares at us for too long, even if they're doing that through a wall or an airplane shell. I felt a knot in my throat. Hey, why do we have to close the blinds? Asked some lady from behind me. We're flying over a layer of atmospheric radiation. The glare can temporarily blind or disorient you, came the automated response. So? It's temporary. Please mind the instructions, otherwise you will receive a fee. There is a real potential of damage. That seemed to shut the lady up. 10 minutes passed. Then another 10. I tried to play some music, but I couldn't doze off, and now I felt as if my skull vibrated. Maybe it did. So did my chest. After an hour of uncomfortable silence, I was certain of the low vibration in my chest and head. Somehow, it felt familiar, a frequency so low, but so known to me. I had no idea what to think. The frequency went higher, and then everybody could hear it. Everybody could feel the whole plane vibrate. It was a different kind of turbulence. What the fuck was that? I couldn't really place it, but it seemed very, very familiar, and very out of place. A young woman suddenly stood up and turned to the attendants. The look of recognition in her eyes ignited something inside me. When she spoke, her voice had a certain dryness. What is that? You tell me right now. The wind is very strong around here. The radiation. Don't bullshit me. Don't fucking bullshit me. This is my line of work. How is it possible? How? Were those screams outside? No, they couldn't be. Couldn't be. The woman plunged to open the blind, but the closest flight attendant grabbed her and yanked her out of her seat with a force that had to be illegal. He then pinned her down. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? I will sue you! Those sounds weren't human. No human could emanate those sounds. And how could they even be human? You're flying thousands of feet up in the sky. Let go of me. I need to look outside. I don't care if I get temporarily blinded. The attendants didn't flinch. They kept staring at us. And now I was more afraid of them than of what would happen if I opened the window shade. A match of screaming followed, and then the flight attendant leaned in and whispered something into the woman's ear. She went quiet. Another half-hour followed, while we all stood still, awake and watched over, like some naughty kids. The lights of the plane flickered, then turned off for a brief moment. But the moment they turned back on, a scream erupted from a flight attendant, who plunged and yanked down a window shade. Some old man had lifted it a little bit. I'd only seen a thin strip of light leaking, lingering on his face, colorless and cold. What was that? Sir? He stood up. His lips moved, forming words without sound. Then the muscles in his neck tightened, and his jaw began to quake as if something were pulling it open from the inside. I'd never seen someone so pale, shivering, teeth clattering, and eyes wide. His pupils were almost non-existent. What the fuck was that? How can it be possible? I don't understand. I don't understand. I really don't, he kept repeating, then froze, mouth parted in wonder. Then he looked up at us and muttered, "We're all going to die here. That's it. Sir, you are being escorted to the end of the plane, where you'll sit with. You could escort me to hell and I wouldn't care. You have no authority here," he mumbled, his eyes now completely darkened and mouth hanging. He left his seat, then kneeled in the middle and let out a terrible wail. No one spoke after that. They restrained him, and now he's in the back. I asked to go to the restroom and I was granted permission. While passing his figure, rocking back and forth and unblinking, I managed to sneak in one question that bended into the frequency that encapsulated the plane. He answered between his clenched teeth, and his response had me puzzled until I reached my seat. My question had been, "What did you see?" Another half-hour passed, and I glanced at the old man, only to see him cold and pale, eyes forever open. He was discreetly pulled into the cabin by an attendant. All of us are afraid to speak, but it is clear that we won't open the blinds. I wrote this with trembling hands, my chest vibrating and the pressure behind my eyes nauseating. I still have many hours left of flying above the ocean, and I can feel the unblinking gaze of flight attendants on me. I feel something coming. I feel something approaching us. I'm afraid to experience the so-called turbulence they mentioned, and the old man's response still haunts me. Those were his last words, before he left us and remained unblinking, words spoken with a concerning lucidity. Tell me, have you ever stared into the eye of a blue whale?